Welcome to another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. It is March and we are celebrating women who made history, but we are recognizing women who continue to make history in engineering and manufacturing. Today, we are joined by Kelly Meredith. She is the co-founder of Anchor Talent and Consulting, a firm dedicated to connecting top talent with premier opportunities in manufacturing, construction, and engineering, which is very much needed because, as you all know, we are struggling to get that new talent through the door. So, Kelly, welcome to Mavens of Manufacturing. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to talk about something I'm incredibly passionate about, business, the right talent, the whole 9 yards, and Anchor Talent Consulting, and how we built our firm around those things, quality, transparency, and the success around long-term hires for our clients. So thanks for having me.
Super excited. So let's start out with some background information about you. Can you share your journey in talent acquisition and what inspired you to focus on manufacturing, construction, and engineering? Like, do you have an engineering background?
So technically, no. Actually, I did start in college with engineering, and I did switch over to marketing. But my stepdad is in engineering as well. He is in aerospace. But I absolutely had a passion for engineering. And early on, I realized that industries like manufacturing, construction, engineering, and specifically, we're facing a lot of hiring challenges. So my background is more on the staffing and consulting side for the last 20 years. But there's definitely, I've seen a high demand in that mid to executive talent shortages, and really saw a specialization need in that space. So these industries have been the backbone of our economy, and we are, finding the right talent is not always as simple as posting a job and waiting to find that skill set. So what really inspired me was seeing the impact of the hires, and not just the company's success, but the individual careers and their growth. Being part of that solution, helping business be qualified, and just really giving candidates opportunities to thrive in roles that help them both personally as well as professionally. That just really keeps me motivated every day. So
really cool. Well, in terms of like manufacturing recruitment, what are some of the biggest shifts you've seen over the last 2 decades? Because as you mentioned before, it's not as simple as just posting an ad, right? Like there's more, I think, creativity behind it. But what are some of the things that you've seen really shifting in areas of recruitment?
Yeah, the biggest shift has been on the demand of high skilled talent and technical talent at that. Manufacturing has evolved. Automation, robotics, AI, Industry 4.0, they've completely transformed the workforce. So employers are looking for candidates who both have hands-on experience and the ability to work in an advanced technology. Another major shift is candidate expectations. Today's market, they're looking for, more than just a paycheck. People want career development, flexibility, strong company culture. That means, having to rethink how we attract and then retain that talent.
So where do you believe traditional recruiting methods are falling short in today's industry? Because one of the things that I hear is, we need to change how job descriptions are composed and how they're handled. So where are traditional recruiting methods falling short in terms of what today's manufacturing is looking for?
So yeah, traditional recruiting methods often fail in today's manufacturing industry, whether it's entry, mid, or executive level, whether you're relying on passive strategies, job postings, and like just collecting resumes. It's not working anymore. The best talent, especially that mid to executive level, isn't actively job seeking. They're busy working. Entry level to mid-level roles also faced labor shortages, high competition, and retention challenges that job boards alone can't solve. So many times recruiting top-tier candidates requires a more active approach, headhunting, targeted outreach, and leveraging deep industry networks to really attract candidates assess the culture fit, and ensure long-term success. Without this, companies will continue to struggle with slow hiring, mismatched candidates, and ongoing labor force gaps.
Well, let's get into anchor talent. So I feel like with recruiting companies, with some of the manufacturers that I talk to, they talk about a disconnect because the recruiter doesn't always know the details or like the specifics of engineering and manufacturing. So before we dive into that, I want to get a little bit of background history about anchor talent. Like, what was your main inspiration to starting this business? And you said that you founded it on the principle of quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. What does that actually look like in practice? Because I want to get a better sense of how you're really, going through these job applicants and really connecting manufacturers to the right talent.
No, absolutely. Quality over quantity, in the grand scheme of things means we don't just send a resume. At the end of the day, we're delivering candidates, right? So we have to know what our product is. Just like any other sales organization, they have to know what product is so they can sell it properly. Mm-hmm. In practice, that means we have to have a deep understanding of what the company's technical needs are. So the culture, the long-term goals, and even being just present with a candidate, understanding what it is that they do and really actively listening. So rather than relying on job boards and passive candidates and passive applicants, we're very proactive and target that and engage that talent. So we're ensuring we're finding those right skills. We're getting involved with leaderships and different organizations. We are looking at leadership qualities so they can thrive and we can understand that. But our process is really rigorous. So us as a company, we do an in-depth and competency-based interview process to really understand make sure that they align with the culture assessments, the behavioral assessments, the functionality. So when we present a long list of candidates to our clients, we're going through that long list with them, basically the behavioral and functional roles.
Okay.
And I apologize. I'm going to back that up real quick. So ultimately, when we present candidates, we're presenting functionality, behavioral requirements that people who are genuinely interested in the opportunity. So we create a long list of anybody who meets that full criteria, what our clients are looking for.
Okay. So you're doing an interview process with the companies you're partnering with, just so you can get a general idea of that culture, and it's not just focusing on the role, but also the company as a whole. Because I think one of the things is too is you can fill a position with a candidate that has the skill set and the qualifications, but if they don't fit that company culture, they're not going to stay within that company. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to ensure the right culture and technical fit is going beyond just, the job description. We take a very consultative approach and truly understand both company and candidate. This starts with like an in-depth conversation with key stakeholders, not just, and I love my HR community and I always support them, but we don't just take it from what the recruiter tells us when they have a need. We're going to anyone who has a say, the stakeholders in this position, understanding, defining the technical requirements, but also the leadership style, the team dynamics, the long-term goals, just really agreeing on a full role profile, functionality, behavioral competencies, geographic targets, companies that, are interesting that they would need that input into their companies, defining an employee value proposition for the client. Basically, it's a rigorous screening process. We professionally headhunt and go out and talk to each one of these individuals based on that profile. And we assess culture alignment by evaluating candidates' work style, values, ability to thrive within the company's environment. But combining those targeted outreach with deep industry networks it's through a thorough vetting process. So we don't just place a candidate. There's that quick fill, get someone there,
Yeah.
fill a seat. That's not what we're doing. We're learning what they're needing, and we're delivering long-term fits that actually can contribute to the business's success.
Are you partnering with any of the organizations that focus on those specific areas? So I know you specialize across manufacturing, engineering, and construction. So like with manufacturing, you have the MEPs, the Manufacturing Extension Partnerships. There's organizations like Women in Manufacturing. For engineering, there's SME, the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. Are you partnering with any of those types of organizations, or even like maybe non-manufacturing related businesses?
We do.
Okay.
We actually we're members of several in the HR community to understand that how the inner workings of the company are part of, but we're also active in other industry organizations as well, and participate in their monthly meetings and go to those networking events, so we can make sure we're immersing ourselves with those individuals, right? So we're always learning about more. So anytime I see a new one, I'm like, ooh, let's go. I want to meet someone new, learn something new. And we're definitely seeing that across our industry. So just really getting to know those individuals. Here locally, we have ARMA. So that was one that we're getting more and more involved with. So
very cool. So speaking of those specific sectors of manufacturing, engineering, construction, what are some of the most in-demand roles you're seeing right now? Because I feel like you have your traditional roles, but then with the advancements of technologies, there's new roles coming in, and there's not even roles we know about yet. So what are the most common ones you're seeing that
or the job titles that are specific to that company and no one else, right?
Yeah, right.
Honestly, right now we're seeing a strong demand for roles with like critical operational and efficiencies, leadership, innovation across manufacturing, engineering, and construction. So some of the most in-depth, kind of behind the scenes look or whatever. So in manufacturing, plant managers, manufacturing leadership, GM and operations, product support, even in supply chain management, especially those that are experience with automation and lean manufacturing. That's been a real big area. On the engineering side, you've got more industrial engineers, process automation, robotics engineers, your quality assurance engineers, supply chain manufacturing systems. Again, and big on the product development engineers as well, because basically those can optimize efficiencies and reduce the downtime, right?
Mm-hmm. How do you guys keep up to date with those roles then? Because I mean, for me as a technical writer, I'm doing a ton of research all the time because there's new things popping up all over the place. Do you have like resources that you rely on to really keep up with, what sort of skills are needed for those more technical
skills are needed? So a lot of the communication that we receive is from the individual candidates. So we talk to people in those seats, and we are getting the inside scoop on what's needed. How are they using these systems in those networking groups that we had talked about before? They're bringing that information up, not to mention all the fun articles that I get sent to my inbox every morning that I read through, and the books that are on my shelf that I read through. But just across industries, when they're struggling to find those skilled leaders, understanding what drives in the technical challenges, managing those teams, what processes are they working to improve? We're asking them those questions and we're learning from it. And each company that we talk to, really gives us kind of an inside scoop to what businesses are doing. Really trying to understand that and try to stay, competitive in today's market.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like the challenges and solutions for hiring, what are you seeing as the biggest hiring challenges manufacturers are facing today? I know you focus on engineering and construction, but I feel like with manufacturers, there's a lot of talk about this skills gap.
Yep.
And how it's affecting manufacturing recruitment. So can you, dive into the challenges and then how the skills gap is really affecting the recruitment side of things?
So I see 5 main areas in as far as where manufacturers might be struggling. So your labor shortage, this is where, there's just not enough workers for the demand that's out there, especially in, production, maintenance, and the leadership side of things. You've got higher turnover, so retention rates are a major issue. Employees leaving for a better pay, work-life balance, or, career elsewhere. So you're trying to retain that talent. We also have a multi-generational workforce. We're experiencing workers that are retiring, and maybe the younger generation aren't. It's not as an attractive. They want to be YouTube stars. They don't want to be in manufacturing necessarily. So keeping people entering into manufacturing at the same rate that they're exiting. Slow hiring process for the traditional methods. It takes too long to get someone in. Causing companies, to lose their talent to their competitors because they're taking too long to hire. And then culture fits. So candidates who align with companies' values and their work environment can be just as tough at finding the right technical skills. Someone who's going to get along with everybody there. You don't have to get along with everybody every day, but at the end of the day, you've got to be able to work with people on a day-to-day basis to grow a company. So finding people who can do that as well as have that technical skill at the same time can be very difficult. So as far as skills gap, one of the biggest barriers to hiring in manufacturing and how it's often affects that recruitment piece is the limited candidate pool, right? Job seekers are lacking necessary technical skills, making it harder to fill those positions. Higher training costs. Employers have to invest a lot more money in training and upskilling, candidates that are the new hires, keeping them up to speed on what's going on. Longer time to fill. Fewer candidates in the application process means positions stay open longer, and delaying that production and increasing costs. And someone else is having to pick up why this job is laid empty because they're traveling now double time. So those people are going to end up leaving because they're burnt out, right? And increased competition. Companies are competing in the same limited talent pool. In this area, people go from one location to the other. It's like a big triangle. And driving wages up and hiring costs. So it's really causing those gaps.
It's definitely a great time to be in manufacturing if you're looking for a new job, because so many people have availability open. So if you're not happy with where you're at, you can definitely find somewhere else to go. But with some of those challenges that you were talking about, like the application gap, the training and upskilling challenges, and invest in competing against the talent that we currently have, what sort of strategies can manufacturers use then to attract and retain that top talent that they're looking for? How can they go about?
Besides hiring me? Just kidding.
It's fair though. That's fair.
It's fair. No, really, just being proactive recruiting, engaging passive candidates throughout the networking process and having a direct approach, competitive pay and benefits. I mean, this is all stuff that I feel like every company should have. Good pay, good benefits, strong wages, good bonus. Flexible schedules is a big one right now. It's a huge one. We went from completely remote to everybody wanted to be on site, and the candidates are kind of like, hey, can we have this middle ground? Training and upskilling, investing in apprenticeships, career development, faster hiring processes, moving through quickly. If you're interested, take that leap of faith. Go ahead and, try someone out and see if it's a fit for your company. Career path growth, showing them what that should look like, the advancement, development, making sure it's a very clear path for them. And then a really strong work culture. I mean, recognizing employees, fostering engagement. Those are what people are really wanting right now.
That career pathway is a big one among women in manufacturing. If they're going to start at a certain level, what does that trajectory look like if they stay with the company long enough? So I think having more performance reviews set up more consistently so that they can know that they're on track to moving up the ladder. I think that's a big shift we're seeing now too, which is really, really
and
cool.
understanding what a performance review is doing. It's not just to do it, which is a lot where companies often fail. They just do it. They don't implement or follow through with what those look like.
Yeah.
And those, and it doesn't have to be a lot of steps. Actually, fewer steps, the better. Because at the end of the day, the more you put in on those areas, people start to lose it. They lose interest. But keep it simple, right?
Right. Do you do any work with companies in terms of like their job descriptions? Because that's a topic that's coming up a lot too, where it's like, get rid of this and add this and make sure to include this. Like what sort of things are you seeing around the job descriptions?
Yeah. So, job descriptions is a funny thing, right? So you at this time in this day and age, we have, a lot of times get legal involved to make sure that we're saying the right things and understanding that, people have made job descriptions for years that frankly are not great. Resumes are not great. And people trying to apply for jobs that they don't qualify, but to brand themselves, to have recruitment success, attracting that top talent, showcasing the company culture, promoting career growth, that kind of thing. When we go in to help a client, we're really diving into what it is they're needing. Often, like you said, we asked about those tops open positions, that companies create their cool new title. Well, that makes it sometimes very hard for someone to apply to it because they don't know what that is.
That's true. Yeah.
They're not, okay, I'm applying for it. It sounds really cool. I'm really interested in it, but are they actually qualified to do the job, or can they have transferable skills that can be used in that section?
Right. The other thing that's going on is I'm seeing a lot of conversations about how people that work at companies can really elevate their personal brand and how they can update their LinkedIn pages so that they're more attractive to, other talent, just to any, like, even, it's not just for customers, right? It's for attracting people to the company. But there is this divide where some people, especially baby boomers, they don't care. They don't want to be proactive. They don't want to be on LinkedIn all the time or any social media channel. Why is it important though to really have the employer branding part of the recruitment process? And what sort of advice do you give manufacturers so that they can bring more people on their team along for that ride? Because I've worked with companies and some of those older engineers are like, I'm not doing it. Don't ask me to do it. I refuse to do it. And is there a way to maybe make that process a little easier for them so that they will take part in it? Like, what's your advice around that?
Well, I don't know about how to make it easier for them, because then I think it's important they've got to do it. If you're gonna, the fact of the matter is we have a multi-generational culture in our workforce. And many of our boomers are going to eventually retire, and the people coming into manufacturing to attract them into that area, we've got to make it attractive. We've got to make it, I have a marketing major. You've got to make the sizzle, right? You're not just put a piece of steak on the plate and saying, here you go. No, it's got to be juicy and shiny and, exciting. So when companies to really have to play a big part in branding to get recruitment. So again, like attracting that top talent, a strong reputation makes hiring easier. People apply to those big names because it's cool, right? They want to, that looks neat. I want to apply there. They have a good culture to showcase the company culture, highlight leadership, teamwork, work environments, promoting career growth, demonstrating long-term opportunities, or boosting employee relations by engaging employees, to stay there longer. If you're engaging in boosting that retention, you're going to have people who want to stay there. Oh, look, this person, is bringing this in, and they see the video, they see the picture. You've got a marketing team for a reason. Use them. And then, use of like that modern marketing, the social media, the testimonials, make a huge impact on, what people say. Oftentimes, we see we see Google reviews or Yelp, and people are hiding behind their screen and and they post the negative. Well, if your employees or your value proposition is positive, get that out there. People want to know that this company has this to offer. Why do I want to work for you? You know, at the same time that candidates on the other side, why do they want to hire me? We've got to brand ourselves, and they in both company, personal, and professionally.
Yeah. I think some of those negative reviews, though, are a great opportunity for companies to take advantage of, because again, it's all about growth and pushing forward. So somebody said something negative. What are you going to do to change that negative perspective that they have? So maybe take that and create a post around that and write an article like, hey, we saw this, we heard it, we see it, we understand it, and here's the things we're going to do to really improve where we fell short.
Here's how we're fixing it.
Yeah.
Companies often in that space that, you know, it's like, hey, I don't know if I want to work with this company. Look at all the negatives. And then if they're aware of them, and that's what that's why they're bringing us in, is to help them get people in there that can help make this shift, because they're aware and they want to make a difference. That makes a big difference. And if, you know, people are going to want to work with them.
Absolutely. Okay. So AI is everywhere. And I was just at a conference, and they had a really interesting keynote come up and talk about AI and like just how fast this is progressing. And it's inevitable. Like, it's going to be everywhere. Everybody, one of the stats I think was that it's up to 400 million users of generative AI, which is a 33%. I might be messing up the stats, and if I am, I'll correct it in the article that I write of this, but it was up like a certain percentage over the last 3 months. So this isn't going away. Like, it's going to be part of everything that we do. And I don't think people should be scared of it. I think it's opening up opportunities for other things. But how do you see technology like AI and automation really impacting the hiring process? And is it impacting what you're doing at Anchor?
Yeah. So AI and automation is definitely changing that hiring game. It really is. You know, it can help screen resumes faster, cut down on time to fill or time to hire. It can also reduce bias by focusing on skills-based backgrounds. Plus, you know, like automation can help things like interview scheduling, making the process look smoother for both the employer and the candidate. But at the end of the day, human judgment is still key. AI can narrow the field. It can replace some of the conversation to make it faster, but it can't actually replace real conversations. That's where I think people are getting, they're worried it's going to do that, but it can't. And if it does, we will all be in a world of hurt, right? But it can't replace real conversations, building relationships, the culture, the fit assessments. That's where, you know, the human experience is invaluable. You have to have that human conversation to make things happen. On both sides, there's some scariness about AI, because, you know, I've seen people, you know, have, in conversations with me, you know, that AI is going to replace recruiters. I'm like, if it does, I'm really, really going to be nervous about the future of the workforce, because at the end of the day, it's such a more of what you say in an interview is not what's on your resume. It's not what you actually physically say out loud. It's body language, communication. It's how you communicate. You know, 80% of I think it's 80%, again, with the stats, 80% of what we say is in our body language. It's very important that we have this ability to do this. And AI has been around for a long time. It's a lot more popularized now, right?
Well, it just blew up over the last, ever since they released Chat GPT, all of a sudden now it's everywhere. And, you know, it's just an interesting, and I think the reason why the public has a hard time wrapping its head around it is because Hollywood, thank you for scaring the bejesus out of all of us with those movies. Like, that's what comes to mind when people think of AI. And that's, you know, we have to do a better job in our industry to really educate the public on like what it is, that the benefits behind it. Yes, there are some risks. Yes, there are things that you should take in consideration. But again, that's all with conversation. So with me, one of the big things that I'm like really into and trying to get more people involved is, you know, women in the space, because when you look at the studies that have been done, the most recent one has been Deloitte with women in manufacturing and the Manufacturing Institute. Right now, women are around 30% of the U.S. Manufacturing stat. Globally, we're representing 16% of engineering. So we have some work to do. I'm very competitive. So yes, I want us to be more than 50% of engineering and manufacturing, but that's just my competitive nature. So are there steps that companies can take to really build a more diverse and inclusive workforce? Because there are studies around, the productivity and the increase to your bottom line when you have that diverse thought and that diverse background, and you're including people from different groups and also different life experiences. It's just better for innovation. So what sort of steps can companies take to really build a more diverse and inclusive workforce?
Yeah, so building a diverse workforce isn't just about hiring. It's definitely creating an environment where people can, stay, people can grow. It's just like attracting talent. You want people to come work for you. You've got to build it in a way that they want to come work for you. Companies need to expand where they're looking for talent. I've been a part of a lot of organizations that are going, we had some in our elementary school the other day, which was fantastic. They're bringing, it said women in engineering. I was like, yes. Brought my, my stepdaughter over there and I was like, let's look at this. Granted, I didn't get her to stay, but I was excited about it. But, thinking trade schools, community programs, diverse industry groups, basically structuring interviews and diverse hiring panels to help remove that bias. Once companies are, or once employees are in your door, providing them mentorship programs, leadership training to make sure people thrive. It's about opportunity, not just optics.
I think the other thing too is when people think of diverse and inclusive teams, they immediately think, well, it's just about ethnicity and gender, and it really isn't. Like there's neurodivergent individuals out there. There's a company that, I heard a story about where they had someone with autism on the shop floor and they needed to wear headphones, not because the shop was too loud, but because if they didn't have the headphones on, all of the other noise in the shop that was going on distracted them from really focusing on what they needed to do. So they allowed this person to wear headphones during their shift, which was pretty cool. The other thing is uniquely abled individuals. Not everybody can get around as quickly as some. And then you also have second chance people who were previously incarcerated, or you have veterans as well too. So what can manufacturers do to consider all of those groups, and are there certain things that they need to change about their recruitment process to really attract members from each of those groups into it? And then how can they change their company culture to fit them? So there's a lot of options out there.
There's a ton. And just really, I mean, again, you're attracting talent. At the end of the day, you're wanting to attract and retain employees to continue growing your business. How do you do that? Just like you would, you have to look in different places. You got to be creative.
So let's talk about the future. What trends are you foreseeing that are really shaping manufacturing workforce in the next 5 to 10 years? And how do you think recruitment is going to change in that time frame?
Well, over the next decade, manufacturing, I feel like, will look different, right? Automation is going to continue to grow, which means companies will need to work more with people and their technical skills. Reskilling is going to be huge. Training employees on new technology will be just as important as hiring people with with the skills. You're going to have to train your current staff to keep up with what's going on. We're also seeing a shift towards that flexible work model. It's about, alternative shifts, scheduling, and scheduling those alternative shifts, but even, some remote monitoring roles. But let's not forget sustainability. Okay. So green manufacturing and creating entirely new career paths in that space. Companies are investing in people, will now have to be the ones leading the industry for the future. Right. So you think about the people you're hiring, you've got to be hiring leaders in every step of the process. Who's going to lead the company? Who's going to lead this moving forward? And we're starting from every hire.
Mm-hmm. I think the amount of technical knowledge one needs to know too is going to increase because there's so much technology involved. Well, if you had one piece of advice for manufacturers looking to build stronger teams, what would that be?
Invest in people. It's not invest in the people. I mean, it's not just a position. I think that you're not just trying to fill a seat. The best teams aren't built simply by filling a job. They're built by finding the right person for the job or developing the skills and creating the environment that you really want them to stay in. So that means going beyond a job description, prioritizing culture fit, and offering really clear career growth opportunities. If you're focusing on attracting, training, and retaining, that's a really hard
tongue twister.
A tongue twister. Just, ultimately retraining people, your company can continue to stay competitive no matter what industry is involved, right? How it evolves, if you're going through and you're investing in those people, you'll be investing in your company as well.
You definitely have to bring the human back to the spaces. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining Mavens and, giving us some more information on Anchor and, providing some really good strategies and tips for manufacturers to gain the attention of the right talent and bringing them in and retaining them. Before I let you go, I do want to give you an opportunity to ask our audience one question. So if you had a big ask for our audience, what would that question be for them?
Ooh, a big ask. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I think that's what I want to say. Connect with me on LinkedIn and let's talk about manufacturing. I am always growing and learning and helping people find the right fit for the job. So my question, connect with me. Let's get involved.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me here on Mavens of Manufacturing. To all those tuning in, be sure to connect with Kelly on LinkedIn, especially if you're having trouble getting that right talent through the door or retaining them. It is Women History Month, so be sure to reach out to all of the ladies, support them, empower them, recruit them, mentor them, sponsor them. Let's get more people involved with engineering and manufacturing. And I have one quick note from our sponsor, so stay tuned for that. If you are having trouble creating content, connect with Z Inc. Solutions, and that is our sponsor message for today. So stay tuned, and I hope you guys have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
This episode of Mavens of Manufacturing has been sponsored by Z Inc. Solutions. Z Inc. Solutions. This isn't your grandmother's copywriting service. We provide copywriting and copy editing services that provide impactful text and memorable storytelling for a variety of brands and industries. Contact us today at zincssolutions.com. That's z-incsolutions.com.